In less than 48 hours, I'll be moving full time into this Land Rover series, and I'll be traveling with it full time for as long as it all makes sense. And the only thing stopping me from starting right now is I really want to enjoy a few days at this family cabin before taking all of my gear from within the cabin into the car again, and then I'm good to go. It's another day, Thursday to be precise, and I think that about this time tomorrow I'll pack up everything, start the car, and leave this place. But before that, I need to organize all of the things I'm bringing with me, which is honestly not that much. You see, I was fully aware of the limitations of the car when I built this specifically for travel. For example, the power output, or lack thereof. But I personally feel like it's going to be a lot more fun, or at least more interesting to travel with this car in comparison to something super easy and suited for the job, just because it's going to be more stuff going on. And to some people, impracticalities might be a nightmare, especially when it comes to traveling, but I could hands down sleep in a ground tent next to any car as long as it's something I wanted to travel with. And of course, a lot of people give the short wheelbase version of this car some shit for being too small, especially for sleeping inside of it. But it's not like it's a clown car. To be honest, I think it's perfect for the job. You only need to be a tiny bit more creative with your storage systems and make some ruthless decisions on what you're actually bringing with you. And in fear of having too much stuff with me, this is the car fully rigged with everything I'm going to need for the foreseeable future. And even now, after dividing stuff into separate bags and getting everything inside of the car and on top, I'm kind of certain there's stuff in there I'm not really going to need. But I'm starting off this light because it's just easier this way, eliminating what I actually need, and I can later on add stuff if there's something missing. But for now, the car is ready, I'm ready. But I will spend one last night at the cabin, and tomorrow morning I'll fire up the car one last time and get out of here. And now that I get back to traveling, there's actually only one thing on my mind, and that is getting back to the mountains. Because ever since I started to rebuild this car more than like 1.5 years ago actually, I've been down south in the country and it's flat and boring in comparison to the rest of the country. But right now I'm kinda in a weird spot because this cabin has the Swedish border on either side of it. So I need to drive through Sweden, take a ferry across a fjord, back to Norway again before I can reach some actual mountains. But before crossing that fjord, I'm taking the car way out towards the Swedish border on the other side to camp out in the forest before driving back down again and taking that ferry ride this Saturday if everything goes to plan. And just like that, I'm leaving. But it's not really early morning as first planned because it's been raining up until now. So I allowed myself a few extra cups of coffee and we're leaving around lunchtime instead. But there is still some light rain falling, so I'll get the car heated up and drive into the forest where it might be a bit more sheltered. And to be quite frank, it's actually nice having some sort of rain because ever since I got the car out of the garage a couple of months ago, we haven't really had any solid rain, so I haven't actually tested how waterproof all of the seams in the car actually are. So this is going to be interesting. This entire forest belongs to the guy owning the land around the cabin we have, and when I parked up at this spot, I actually got a notification on my phone saying that we have switched over to the Swedish network, which does kind of emphasize how close we are to the Swedish border, which is across that lake, above that hill, and I think another hill, and in the middle of the next lake we have the Swedish border. But I'm only going to stay here one night because around the same time tomorrow, which is Saturday, I've booked a spot for the car on a ferry, previously mentioned. And I was actually planning on making some lunch now, but before that, there's actually something I need to fix on the car already. But it's kind of my fault, because I, like many others, have opted for the cheapest possible version of these side lights. And the only reasoning behind that is they're so cheap that I can have spares in the car. But they're also so cheap that over tightening a screw will crack the plastic. And I have no clue when I did that, but luckily I got spares. And since it's kind of my fault, I think it's only fair that I don't get any lunch before I replace those with the spares I have in the bottom of one of the bags on the roof. Oh, never mind, they're actually on the top of the bag. And after seeing that, you might wonder why on earth I'm using these quick connectors inside of waterproof boxes instead of having them actually spliced together like you're supposed to. And I think this is a good demonstration why. So don't try to attack me for doing something sloppy with the electrics, because it's actually kind of thought out. The only problem now is those were the only spares I had, so I should probably order new spares or maybe buy a better version of the lamp. And as you can tell, the weather is kind of on and off, but this actually lined up perfectly with my lunch instead. I can't really justify this, but somehow I've been so focused on just getting back on the road that I've obviously forgotten a bunch of important things, like a knife, a bowl, a fork or spoon. But luckily I had a small knife on my keychain and I've made some oatmeal soup instead of regular oatmeal. But I'm back on the road, so it could be worse. And I can easily fix that as soon as I get back to some sort of town, which is already tomorrow. But I should prioritize getting some of the basics back into the car. But yeah, I said I wanted to pack lightweight. Who even needs a knife? And also, whilst I have the weather on my side, I'll set up the bed so that I don't have to do that if it starts raining again, because it's more than likely. And it is, like shown before, quite easy to set up. You just pull the passenger seats forward like this, and then I just get out this bed platform with the hinges and the straps, and then the plate slides onto the other end of the hinges like that, and the rest of the weight will be held up by these straps. And at last I have this 3-piece mattress that just folds out, making the bed a full 70 times 190 centimeters bed, which is more than adequate for me, as well as having this extra room above my head for like a pillow or something. And that is pretty much everything needed for the bed to be set up, apart from the sleeping bag I have inside of this pillowcase together with all of my clothing. And you can also pretend like you're not seeing this solar cable, because it's a temporary solution through one of the air flaps, because I'm planning on upgrading the battery pack I have, and I'm not sure if it will be in the same location. So this is temporary, probably going to be like that for a year. And I do know I've shown this before, but I can obviously sleep both ways. But if I have the head up here, I can also adjust the straps all the way up to like a seating position if I want to be inside of the car, sheltered from the weather, reading, watching a movie, or working on videos like this on the laptop, which is exactly what I will be doing right now, because I feel like just working on the laptop, waiting out the weather for a while, and then I can get back out later and I can actually try to plan some of the traveling I will be doing this year. It's 6 o'clock now in the morning, because the weather last night didn't really scream cozy evening outside in the forest. But I'm not staying here longer than a few cups of coffee, so I won't be needing all of this. It is obviously the end of May, but given that this is Norway after all, I think we had only a few degrees last night, maybe like 1 or 2 degrees plus. So no frost, but kind of chilly nevertheless. Which is why even the summer setup has thick down jackets and a down sleeping bag, which is going to be a lot more crucial when I get further into the country towards the highlands and even further north. This water was boiled yesterday, so I'm actually not sure if it's warm enough, but rather have a lukewarm coffee to begin with, and then I can rather boil up some more water. And that's probably 1 liter boiled in less than 30 seconds. Might be cheating because it was already kind of warm. With the bed inside of the car and all, the pack-up time is quite fast, and if I wanted to, I could have been on my way out of the forest now. But mornings like this, as long as the weather is not shit and you're not cold, it's probably my favorite time of day. But on the other hand, this sort of camping is kind of a weird mix between sleeping in a tent and sleeping in a caravan, because it's not as brutal as carrying all of your stuff and sleeping in a tent, but it's also definitely not as luxurious as sleeping in a caravan. However, if you're used to sleeping in a tent and move over to something like this, this will be kind of nice, which is what I did. But if you're used to sleeping in a luxurious camper, this is probably not going to be something you enjoy that much. Another note is, yesterday when I left the cabin, the car was obviously quite tidy inside, but it's all going to be downhill from now on. I can't keep everything tidy all of the time because of the size of the car. But with this series, not the car series, but like the video series, I'll try to show you more of the unpicturesque stuff as well, because after all, I'm just a guy sleeping in a damn car. It's not that deep. Everything is, like you can tell, heating up. Just fired up the engine with the shock, and yeah, like you can tell, it's a cold engine. Give it a few minutes. You do get this car as a diesel as well, with pretty much the same engine, but there's something quite unique with an old petrol car like this, because the only thing I need to worry about is fuel, air, and spark. And it's warm in a few minutes.